Dumelang kaofela. My name is Gogo Moyo and I'll be hosting you today for another session of Let's Study podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us today and she's quite enlightening. She's very learned as well and very layered too. Just to read some of her accolades, she has a Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing Management, Digital Marketing Certificate, Master Life Coach, NLP Practitioner, peak performance coach. She'll tell us what all of this means for the layman. But until then, rather, I'd like to invite everyone who's new to the platform to please subscribe as well as hit the bell button so that you cannot miss out on more of these exciting interviews that we have coming up for you. Today, we are talking about something that's very, very special and affects many households. We're talking about the psyche, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about the relationship that one has to keep with self. So, thank you for tuning in onto the stream. Please remember to share the stream on your respective platforms. And yeah, let's get into it. Yep, we're up. Dumela mma.
Dumela, o bjang?
Ke teng, okay?
Ke teng.
Thank you for joining me this afternoon.
It's good to be here. This is way overdue.
Way overdue, right? We tried this before and well, the network was not having it. But I think it's always great to be led by conversation, by energy, so that by the time we actually do have the conversation, it's so fitting and, we're being carried into it. We're being led into it, right?
I was definitely so exhausted on the day we were supposed to have our live. Like my energy levels were so low. So I'm actually glad that we moved it. It's just that I'm also that person. It's like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So, but yeah, the universe is like, nope. So I guess today will probably be a better conversation than the last.
No, excellent. I'm also just like you. Hey, my word is my bond, so trust. Otherwise, I'll call and I'll explain what's going on if I cannot fulfill. But trust, if I said I'm going to do something, I definitely will.
That's a good trait to have.
Yeah, man, we gotta be accountable. Hey, come on. So today, beautiful people, we have the beautiful Yvette Ratshikhopha. Tell us, man, what do all these accolades mean? Like, you sound like a very serious person at the age that you are at. You're so young. How did you manage all of this?
I mean, qualifications and stuff are just qualifications,
Yeah.
It's really just about how you use them and your intention, right? So degree is just like, obviously, in life, you're just like, your parents push you to get through school and you have to get a degree. So I think that was just a normal journey in life. But I got to a point where in my path where I was like, okay, where do I want to go? I think one of the best advice my dad gave me is that when it comes to my career, is that look at what you actually need and where you're going. You don't have to do a whole degree. Sometimes you can just add a course, as long as you get the depth of the knowledge, especially once you do have your degree or some sort of qualification, you can just add certificates and do it. And I was like, okay, took that and I ran with it. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be a coach, maybe let me do a coaching course. And also just looking at the healing work. So I'm always doing like courses, even on like Udemy, free platforms.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always like self-learning. And I think a lot of it has also just been in the past 3 years where I've just immersed myself. And yeah, that's when I really got into just getting to know myself better and really got into just pushing as an entrepreneur and really got into just, just educating and like expanding my mind. So I did that for a whole 4 years where I was just every day was a documentary or learning or a course or something. Even if I didn't have the money, I made sure I'm like, what am I willing to sacrifice? Because I have this bigger goal, this bigger vision that I want to see actualize in my life. And I took the steps whether it meant that, I'm not doing my hair for months, that was the first reason I think why I used to have straight back all the time. And
wow.
And like, yeah, so for me, it's just about the bigger vision and looking, okay, what can I actually control and what is it that I want to achieve? And then matching whatever I learn in accordance to that, whether formal or informal.
That is so interesting. I love the fact that you realized your dream, you realized how much it's going to cost you, and you set yourself up for success in the sense that I remember when I was in school, there was one of my lecturers that said, if you don't know how much your dream costs, then it's only going to remain a dream because you don't know how much work you have to put into it, what you need to sacrifice, what, how many hours you need to spend before you become a master in that particular conversation. So I absolutely love that you were able to identify that and then work your way back. Um,
And
yeah,
And if I can add to that, it's like even
sure.
the cost of it, right? Because every time you think
Yeah.
of a dream, you're like, it's going to be so nice. I'm going to get to travel. I'm going to own my own time. You don't look at like the emotional cost. You don't look at the relationship.
Oh,
You don't look at like the different costs. It's not just like financial value. It's like, what else would I have to not really sacrifice, because there is
yeah.
a big and bigger benefit. It's just that for that season, you have to be aware that when I
Mm,
am pushing this as an entrepreneur and Saturdays I'm working, that means I'm not spending time with my friends. When
yeah.
I have decided to take on this course, that means, I might have to schedule time better with my family and be intentional about that, because that means that I might be traveling all over the world, and that's my dream. So it allows you to also just prepare yourself mentally. So when it comes to life, you're not overwhelmed.
That's so very true. That is so very true. Um, I mean, even when you look at social media, for instance, just by looking at it, it seems like people are doing exceptionally well. They're thriving in their spaces, mind, body, and soul. Literally, they've got their stuff together. And you look at this person, you idolize this person, and they don't necessarily talk about the hardships. And I'm glad that you're also mentioning that there's emotional sacrifices, this social sacrifices that have to happen for you to take care of the greater good of what your dream actually is?
Mm, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we don't share, I don't post pictures of myself crying.
You
I
can't. Who
don't
does?
post
Like, I'm having a sad
and
day. Let's
it's,
cry
it's
together.
like, I don't post pictures of myself broke. Like, I'm not like, guys, I have 5 cents left in my account, and this particular bank is about to take it. So, like, nobody posts that stuff. We all post our happy moments. There's some people that do, but also it's something interesting that I realized in my own journey because of the way that I've positioned myself on social media as a helper, as a healer, and maybe also I don't engage enough because I was just in like just having introspection. I'm a thinker, so I'm always in my head. And I was like,
Mm,
interesting, when I post something personal about myself and I've had a really bad day, I've lost a loved one, I can see the numbers that people scrolled through this post, like 8,000 people,
yeah,
but very
yeah.
few people commented. Like maybe you get
Engaged.
5 to 10, 15, 20. Then post something that gives to other people, that's when you get like the biggest reaction. I'm like, okay, it's fine
Yeah.
because I did position myself this way. It can't always be other people saying, oh, these people aren't here for me. They just want me, as a life coach. And it's like, no, but I position myself as a coach. I position myself as
Exactly.
somebody who is supernatural, and I don't post my bad days. I don't post my personal stuff. So of course the way that people will relate to me will be in relationship to the image that I portray. So I was like, that was like an interesting like thought that I had. I was like, oh, do I want to be more open, and all of that? And I was like, maybe just a little. So it's also just interesting, Uguti Avele, we all just post our good days, and
Yeah.
everybody's human. Just because we're also not posting those things, doesn't mean that if something happens, I'm not down for like 5 days. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean I don't have bad days. It doesn't mean that I don't have certain challenges. It just means that I'm human. And for me personally, it's like I'm just carrying everybody in my journey. I'm only
Yeah,
29, turning
definitely.
30 soon. And like,
Yes.
I'm like, I'm just a person who is figuring life out while taking others along in my journey. I'm not perfect. I make
Mm,
mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes, just that I've chosen to
definitely.
share my wisdom in my own journey.
Sure, you just actually dragged me in one of the things that you said because sometimes also being a healer can be so exhaustive. And you're like, yo, can I just walk into a space and then someone doesn't come to me like, yo, Gogo Moyo,
Mm.
like, ipopo, yo, amadlozi, yo, and you're like, this one day I was actually planning on just coming out for some dinner, spend some time with a loved one and really forget that the world exists. Can I just do some fine dining, like in absolute silence? And the fact that
Mm.
you said, but no, mom. you positioned yourself like that. So you should not be surprised when someone, walks up to you and has a conversation with you and wants to share. Part of them even feeling like they can is because you're that open. You've been that open even on a social media perspective. So you can't choose now when you want to accept and let people in and when you feel like it's being overly bearing. So I feel dragged, Ma, but I'll take my L. I'll take what's mine, because it's quite empowering also. You also mentioned the word, you mentioned that you were a healer. In what respect are you a healer? What's your medium? What's your tool? Like, what kind of healer are you?
Okay, so I'm a coach, and part of the methods that I use in terms of, or at least the focus of my work,
Yeah.
part of the focus of my work, is that I work with individuals and I assist them in healing their past traumas and experiences, or just letting go of the past. And how I do that is through NLP. So I use NLP techniques, which just means NLP stands for Neuro Linguistics Programming. And what that means is that I understand how the mind works and how certain behaviors and patterns come. I guess I can understand how a person's behaviors through communicating and talking to them, how their patterns are and what patterns aren't serving them, what limiting beliefs aren't serving them, and then help them to release those patterns, to release those limiting beliefs, and to release also any negative emotions. So how I do that is by literally, yes, I call it time travel with my clients, is by
Okay.
literally taking them to the event, because a lot of us go through stuff, right? We maybe have been abused in our childhood, maybe we're bullied, maybe our parents had favoritism, maybe it was a thing of you said a speech once and since then you've had this anxiety around talking because
Sure.
people laughed at you. Maybe it could be anything. Maybe you tried on some clothes and they never fitted, and you told yourself that, you know what, ever since this event, it means that there's something wrong with me and my body, not thinking
Yeah.
maybe the market at the time didn't cater for people your size. So we have these events and we make a meaning out of them. And how I
Yeah.
help people is by assisting them through unpacking and releasing the emotions, releasing the beliefs that they have, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, I'm not important, my feelings don't matter, I don't matter, I'm all on my own, everybody will reject me. So many of us have these experiences like childhood rejection, one of your
Yeah.
parents left, maybe you lost your parents at a young
Sure.
age and were raised by other people. There's so many things. And
Yeah.
basically what I do is that I assist people to just understand where some of their patterns are, because regardless of what you've been through, there's
Yeah.
usually a pattern, right, in your life,
Definitely.
and that
Yeah.
pattern is revealing something. And I'm able to assist the person through coaching and asking them questions and techniques that I have, and then assist them in releasing that so they can create the life that they want.
Yo, that's a mouthful. So
Yes.
basically, you're a person that's like you bookable, you've got a whole schedule where someone can call you up and say, yo Ma, I need to sit on the couch with you. Or is it one of those things where it's in a specific environment? Can you do it remotely? Can you meet in a park and have the session? Like just walk us through like some of the scenarios where you would be able to talk to these kind of people.
Interesting enough, you said park.
Yeah.
I used to, when I first moved to Joburg, which is around the time where I started
Okay.
practicing as a life coach, I used to meet people everywhere, which is quiet. Before I had like an office space to go to, so in parks and
Yeah.
like really, really like quiet restaurants or hotels where like they have a restaurant or a boardroom. So now it really is flexible, especially now with the pandemic and all of that. So all my sessions,
Definitely.
well, most of my sessions are virtual. So I work with
Mm,
people from all over the world, Netherlands, Kenya, the UK, the US,
yes.
um, basically everyone, and everybody in South Africa, of course. So my services are available to anybody. So people book, just like you would book with any other practitioner.
Yeah.
And then we set a date. And before COVID, I would, of course, meet with people like in person at the office
Yeah.
space that I'm at right now. And yeah, so now mostly it's virtual just for the safety of everybody.
No, that's fantastic. Also, guys, just to acknowledge you guys, I'm seeing all your lovely comments here. One of them is from Tumi Rams, who says, Togoza Koko, my two faves in one space. Looking forward to this. Love you, Yvette. Zandile says, Togozani, Koko, and Yvette. So it seems like we're quite popular, Mama. Hey, hey.
It seems like
Um,
you're quite popular.
I mean, like, this is my channel after all. Like, thank you guys for joining us on this stream. I feel like you guys are going to get such enriching messages from this conversation. So remember to share the stream on your respective platforms. And you can also write up questions so I can ask Yvette. We're talking about taking care of self, be cognizant of self, mental health, just the relationship we keep with ourselves, because she also spoke about time travel, in the sense that she goes back to talk about the struggles that people have gone through as past traumas from their childhood, or even like literally last year, based on a failed marriage or whatever the case is. But it still affects us on an everyday, day-to-day basis, because we make decisions literally every minute, every second of our day. And if we haven't dealt with those things, we'll literally see a ripple effect spread out throughout our lives, because we are refusing to deal with these hardships, right? So please don't be shy to put your questions there. This is a very open space. We don't have judgment here. If anything, we appreciate your questions, because you're not the only one, right? Mama, can you please tell me what mental health is?
Mental health. I would say, I think there's different definitions.
Yeah,
For me, I'm not a psychiatrist or therapist or anything of that sort. But I would say
sure.
it's how you live in relationship to your peace, or how you maintain your peace. And also it has so many facets. So I would just say it has to do with how you maintain your peace, how you manage your emotions, and also just for some people I think it's also where it's clinical and all of that, and where there's medication and so forth.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people as well, it's also just how are you maintaining your peace? What's your relationship with your emotions, and yourself? So managing mental health, I think it's just making sure that you are in a good state mentally and taking care of your mental and emotional health as well.
Okay, can one see themselves, that they're struggling with mental health issues? Is it a good idea to self-diagnose? I mean, like, we live in a very technological era right now. If I get a cough and I feel like I coughed with a whiz, or like I feel some type of way, I'm going to go onto Google, literally research everything about my symptoms. Therefore, and then I go down to the nearest denomination of what that could possibly mean. So how safe is it to self-diagnose? Is it possible for someone to be maybe even so attuned with themselves that they can actually pinpoint that, no, hang on, my struggle is not in anywhere else but within my own mental capacity?
So I think a lot of us like to diagnose. We are the Google generation.
Certainly.
And I think it's always good to go and speak to somebody if you're in a state where you're like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. I'm noticing these changes in myself. I'm noticing myself feeling anxious. I'm noticing myself feeling just feeling not like myself. It could be a neutral feeling. It could be a feeling of not feeling anything. It could be
Oh
a
yeah.
feeling of not wanting to be here. It could be a feeling of just feeling like you're here in this life, but you're really not present. There's so many I think different experiences, but I think it's always good to speak to a professional who can assist you, so that if there is a diagnosis that needs to happen, then you can go and get a professional diagnosis. And then in terms of I think with us and I'm also a person like a person that's always Googling, because I like to know what's going on, because once
Definitely.
you know what's going on, you can do something about it, relative to
Mm,
just being in it. So for me, my power is in knowledge, and research and understanding. So if I can understand something if I understand that, I'm drinking this cup of coffee and the side effects of that could be that I get more anxious. I haven't been sleeping well enough. And the
yeah.
side effects of that is that I can be more anxious. I've had this past experience, and since then I've had the feelings of deep sadness, the feelings of anger, the feelings of resentment. I'm feeling like I'm not feeling anything, and I haven't felt anything since this happened, or even since my childhood, and then I'm
Sure.
unpacking and then understanding, okay, this is what I'm going through, so I think it's quite important to just go that step, because it's a way of honoring yourself. And once you understand yourself, you understand what you're going through and why you're going through it, whether it's a scientific explanation, a spiritual explanation, or any other kind of explanation that you get that resonates with you, and your experience, and your being as well, is that, yeah, you can do something about it. Therefore, you kind of take your power back, because once you understand something, right, you can manage it better. And you can also understand that there's nothing wrong with you, because it's like, so often, for example, when I work with people that have been through trauma, is that we go through life thinking we're broken or there's something wrong with us, because we don't understand the context of our experiences, so we just like, how come everybody's kind of managing with this fine? You're not everybody. You have your own unique experiences, you have your own generational trauma, you have your own generational genetic, all that stuff that's in your lineage that you're carrying with you that the other person doesn't have. So context is so important, and understanding is so important. And once we go and do the research and speak to the relevant professionals, we can then understand and unpack and stop having this belief that there's something wrong with us. There's something, I'll say, for example, as a woman, a lot of times, for example, when you're in your period, you may not, you may get anxious. You may wake up and feel like literally the world is ending, but when you go into research that, oh, this is why this happens because of the hormonal changes, you're like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, right? This is something that's manageable. I can go and get like magnesium supplements or iron supplements, and and manage it, so I think that's what's empowering about when we understand ourselves. And I think the journey to mental health is about understanding yourself, regardless of where it is in your journey, or regardless of where you are in your journey, it really just is about understanding yourself and then managing what you're going through and managing your experience, and also managing what comes with that experience.
Sure, that's a mouthful. Do you perhaps think that there's a relation to mental health and spirituality, or the lack of spirituality or faith belief system? Like, do you believe maybe there's some kind of relation that maybe one can cause the other by virtue of there not being something that anchors you, that helps you feel more positive and more hopeful about a better tomorrow? Do you think that there's a relationship?
So I think there's a relationship within everything. Nothing happens in isolation. So I think definitely there is. And then again, it will go back to what the definition of spirituality is, right? For me, spirituality, my definition of it is how we relationship with ourselves. Some people relationships with themselves through what they call God. I am made in the image of God, therefore, this is God, this is me, and this is how I relationship with myself in relationship to the fact that I'm made in the image of God. For some people, spirituality is, going to church every single Sunday. If some people's spirituality is, it's the relationship with your ancestors. So I would say, for me, it's like you can relationship through these different mediums, but it's how you perceive yourself.
Definitely.
It's how you perceive yourself and how you journey with yourself. So that's what I think the deepest spirituality, and also what you believe about yourself. So I think, if I were to step away from the usual definition, is like, it's like what do you believe about yourself? So obviously, if you believe you're broken, that's gonna cause you some ailments on the inside. If you believe that you're not enough, if you believe that life can never work out for you, that's gonna create stress for you, right? That's gonna create sadness for you. That's gonna create certain things and a certain experience for you, right? So I would say bring it back to self. What's your relationship with yourself? And even if you believe in spirituality as a relationship with a force outside of yourself, right? Whatever it is that you believe about that source, basically kind of comes back to yourself. So it really is, what's your relationship with yourself? What do you believe about yourself? And I think there is definitely a link, because there's no way you can believe that you're destined for a terrible life, or that good things don't happen to you, and then you can be in a healthy space.
True.
The two can interlink. And again, in terms of spirituality and mental health, everything is interlinked. So in terms of, for example, wellness, what you eat and consume affects your spiritual and your emotional health, and your mental health as well. What the content that you consume, what you watch on television, what you listen to on the news, and what you engage with on social media, right? That's the mental part of it, right? affects what you feel, it affects your
Yeah.
emotions. And if things affect your emotions, right, there's certain hormones that get released in your body and all of that, and that affects your well-being overall. So everything is literally interlinked. There's nothing in separation, but definitely spirituality and how relationship with ourselves and how we relationship with that which we think created us, definitely has to do with that, with our well-being.
I always get to, even when I speak to clients in Dumbeni, and you're realizing that, okay, this person may have spiritual issues, but outside of them, this person lacks a relationship with themselves. Like, they don't know whether they're coming or they're going. They don't know how they feel about themselves. So, like, if you don't know that, it's almost like you can't even evaluate importance even in things that you participate in, or whether you even want to do them or not. What I'm trying to get to with this question is, what would you say towards a person who is in the mindset of believing, especially with social media playing such an influential role, that, okay, I'm the same age, or I'm even like, what's 3 years older than Yvette, and I haven't done half the things that she's done. When I was a young girl and I was growing up, I had like four things on my list that I wanted to have made sure that at my age right now, I should have achieved this. I should have realized this. And you find that a person now is literally gauging their life based on the younger version of themselves, who was obviously not introduced into the world. They had not gotten even their first job. They hadn't even had their first life crisis or their first breakup, but we're still stuck with the mindset of, when I was young, I was hoping that by the time I get to this age of 32, I should have been this person. What would you say to a person like that, especially when we like to crucify ourselves based on things that they still can be changeable? As much as it may seem like doom and gloom, we still have the power in our hands.
Yeah, that is an interesting question as well, Uguti. Just for a person who's comparing themselves to others, right? Or comparing themselves to old versions of themselves.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's also you're beating the comparison within self and the things you expected from yourself and the assumed disappointment that you have towards yourself as well, or maybe from others. So I think if someone was comparing themselves to me specifically or anybody else, it's first of all, you don't know what I've been through, and I will
True.
say, look at your own context, that person, you don't know what I've been through to also get to where I'm at, the sacrifices I've made, the context that I come from, do I come from privilege? You could be comparing yourself to somebody who comes from privilege. What traumas do I have? So many times it's like we put so much pressure on ourselves, right? And I think part of it has to do with society. When you turn 30, you must have this by 30. When you turn by this age, you must have this. And if you don't do this, you're this. So really just, I would say, really don't compare yourself to others because your experience is unique to you, from the village you were born in or the neighborhood you were born in to the parents that you have, your upbringing, right? You are not, I'll use relationships for an example. A person who
Sure.
has relationship tools by witnessing a healthy relationship does not have the
Yeah.
same tools as somebody who doesn't have that. So it might take longer for the other person to learn, how do you communicate? How do you open up? How do you become vulnerable? How do you do that? So I, as Yvette, who was raised by, a single mom, who was also going through the most, cannot compare myself to somebody else who hasn't had that. A person who, for example, had parents who were hard on them, right, throughout their entire life, cannot a person compare themselves to someone who was supported, affirmed, and. So in our delays, as they seem, right, we're getting the lessons in because there's healing that also needs to happen. Like, for example, with me, you can say, oh, Yvette has a degree in marketing, but it took me 6 years to get that degree. You understand? Nobody cares about it now. I also definitely don't care about it. But at some point, that was a different part of my journey. So honestly, our journeys are going to look different. Compare yourself to you and your own growth. Look at this is what will go. And it's also okay to change your mind, and really there is no you're supposed to be. It's just about journeying with yourself in the present, and just understanding that your journey is unique because you have a
Yeah.
different context, you have a different background, and you also have a different goal and achievement. And if I compared myself to other people who were, maybe while I was doing my degree for 6 years and entrepreneuring and do all that stuff, people, some of them were already working, and I was like still entrepreneuring and
True.
figuring out my degree and all of that, but I never did that. I was like, I can celebrate them and understand that this is where I am and this is what I need to do for myself. And these are the challenges that I had, and these are the learnings that I had. So I'd say stop comparing your journey, your season to other people. Look at the lessons that you can get in the season that you're in. Because if you're comparing, you can't see the lessons that you're getting in that particular season and the purpose of that season. I would have never been an entrepreneur if I did everything one time. I wouldn't be a coach because I would have been fine.
True.
I hadn't been through also the experiences that I had in my childhood, I wouldn't be doing the work that I do. So my journey was crafted for me. That 6 years was also needed because it allowed me to say, and like, you can actually make your own money. You can be a consultant. You can actually, because I've only had one job in my life for another person, and that was a 6-month internship. And then since then, I've been making money for myself. I've employed other people. I employ people older than me. If I was comparing my journey to other people, right,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even acknowledged the ability that what I could do in that season that I
Certainly.
was in and show up as myself and not as somebody else. So focus on your own season and focus in the lessons that you need to learn in the season that you're in, whether it's that you're single right now and you're not in a relationship, whether it's the fact that you're looking for work. There's something that you can learn in this season. There's something that can come out of it in that season. If you focus on it and learn and understand that, you can learn through it and grow through it.
Sure, that is a mouthful. Actually, that is quite a mouthful, says Morgan. You said a mouthful. Wellness is holistic. Zandile says, exactly. We suffer because of the standard society has set for us. So it seems like all of this is very true. It's so echoed because we actually watch people we care about, people we grew up with, and then you're like, but why are you beating yourself up so much? Even in your delayed start, look at you now. Like you still sit amongst everyone and no one has to look at you and see you in tatters because that was never the path that was supposed to happen for you. Everything has its moment, and it's more important to be cognizant of yourself within that moment. There's lessons to be learned, there's character that's being built, like you're being refined. It's like a diamond in the rough. You don't get a beautiful ring by virtue of just mining. You find it in the hardest conditions. Then you displace it and move it in a more established place where you refine it and you work on it. That's exactly the same mindset that we're supposed to keep about ourselves. I'd like to ask you, what kind of tools or affirmations or anything on a self-care perspective that we can do for ourselves as people who are struggling with internal wars, internal fights? I mean, if I can go diagnose myself that I've got mental health and like I'm depressed or I've got anxiety, then in my same self-diagnosis, what kind of tools or things or whatever activities that I can do to help me also get out of these ruts? Because sometimes they come and go. Sometimes they're longer than expected. Could be a month, could be 6 months, could be a year, depending on how well you're doing in that environment. What kind of advice could you give to these people?
Um, yeah, I'd say be present for your own experience, and it's what people need is going to be different from person to person, right? So when you're present, because what we do when we go through a tough season, right? We tend to, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this. We reject it, and then it catches us 10 years later, catches us 5 years later. Um, but nonetheless, it catches up to us, right? It keeps building up. So just because you push something under the carpet doesn't mean it stops existing, doesn't mean it
Sure.
disappears. It will surface again. So I'd say be present for your experience. And what that means is that, okay, ask yourself, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
Right? And pay attention. Okay, I'm feeling sadness, I'm feeling anger, and then I'm feeling anxious, right? And then I'd say if you're feeling anxious, of course, there's exercises that you can do, like breathing exercises, checking if you're getting enough sleep, looking at just doing yoga, things that are relaxing, taking time off from work, observing the things that are stressing you, for example, observing the things, when did this feeling of anxiety start, how long have you had it? There's things to look at as well. But really, if you're present for your experience, you can give yourself what you need. And the truth is, our body tells us, right? When you're overworking your
Definitely.
body, you feel it, right? You start to feel anxious. You start to feel tired. You feel depleted. When your emotions also, if you're not honoring them and feeding, the sadness becomes deeper. The anger becomes even more because, for example, if you're not present for that experience of anger, for example, if family members, keep sidelining you, keep
Yeah.
beating you down and treating you like, in a certain way that doesn't honor you. If you're present for that
Mm.
experience and you're present for the anger, you can ask yourself what that anger is demanding of you. The anger could be demanding of you to set boundaries. The anger
Sure.
could be demanding of you to stop trying to save other people. The anger could be
Yo.
demanding of you to put yourself first.
Yeah.
But if you're not present for the anger, right, and you just push it away, because also we have this thing where anger is a negative emotion, sadness is a negative emotion, and it's not. It's there to serve a purpose. So when you're
Yeah.
present for your own experience and you seek to understand it and you're there for it, right? Then you can ask me, what does this moment demand of me? What does this experience demand of me? And if you don't know, go and consult somebody who does. There are resources online as well. There are people that create content for free. I mean, we are so blessed as this generation. I mean, some
Yeah.
books were banned from coming to South Africa. So
Sure.
with this generation, and if you wonder why some of our parents, I mean, they weren't even allowed to read certain books, they weren't even allowed to go and learn about certain things. So we are so blessed. And part of that privilege comes with the fact that we can get data and we have knowledge at the tip of our fingers. We have help at the tip of our fingers. So go and do research. What can I do for anxiety? If
Yeah.
I'm feeling sad, what can I do to help me express my emotions better? But if you want to be your own therapist, pay attention to what you
Yeah.
feel. Don't judge your emotions, don't judge your experience, but be aware and ask yourself the important question: what am I feeling? Right? When did I start feeling this? What happened to
Mm.
me? Right? When people ask what's wrong with me, there's nothing wrong with you, but what happened to you that kind of
Yeah.
created you
Sure.
to respond this way? But what made you start to believe that you're not enough? What made you start to show up in the way that you do? What made you stop putting yourself first? When did you start this behavior? And yeah,
Mm.
just pay attention. Pay attention. Your body's always speaking. So if you're stressed, you'll get bloated, your
Mm.
bowel movements will get
Side
interrupted. What we
effects.
do then, right? What we do when those things happen, we get something, a pill, something to just, push it aside, because then that symptom that you're experiencing, right, is bringing something to your awareness. When you get shoulder pain, that's bringing something to your awareness. When you get
Mm.
back pain, that's bringing something to your awareness. So sometimes we need to stop this thing of stopping to numb certain things because they're bringing something to our awareness. Of course, go consult a doctor, because I know people sometimes can twist words. Go consult a
Yes.
doctor, do all those things still. But sometimes we get into the habit of suppressing emotion, suppressing the symptoms that we experience in our body that are supposed to bring our awareness to the fact that we're tired, we need to rest, right? We're not getting enough sleep. And then we've also been conditioned to live in a world where we function like machines. And that's why so many of us are getting burnout, right? And we're not
Sure.
machines, right? The human body is going to get tired and it's going to tell you even if you
Mm.
don't listen. So sometimes it doesn't need you to keep suppressing. It needs you to express and understand where it's coming from so you can deal with it at the root, right? And so that you can heal yourself holistically moving forward. Another
You know,
mouthful.
no, another mouthful. You must keep them coming, man. I mean, like that's why we have you as a guest because we know you can deliver. You got bars for days. Um, I think the one thing that's like it was like a spark in my mind is also the way you question someone. Because it's by default like hunt again, go in, and like what's wrong with you? Like, and when we don't realize that if I figure out a different way of questioning, this person will feel less attacked. They'll feel more inclined to want to expand on what their issue is. And also the energy that I'm going to come at a person with, it's also going to determine how much this person feels at ease with me to come unpack whatever the issue is. I may not necessarily have the words of wisdom, or to answer their question at the time, but sometimes by just virtue of talking, a lot has already happened in terms of your healing process. And that's what I want to ask is, how do you support someone who is not well with themselves? Like when you see someone with so much potential, they've got so much life, they're such a bright spark, they're so innovative, but obviously their image of themselves is so warped that they don't see what we see. How do we support each other?
Mm. Such a good question as well. just looking at, so first thing is when you know, okay, this is also something that I've had to learn to do and understand that sometimes people are in their season, right? So first, you don't
Yeah.
internalize it and make it your job to save them. That's what you don't want to do, right? So you have to, as much as you want to have compassion, right? You don't want to have this also state of mind that makes you, because by observing, you're almost like, it's almost like you're saying, this person needs to be somewhere else, which other than where they are right now, right? And
Yes.
where they
Yes.
are right now is what life demands of them, right? And
Mm.
you wanting more of them is kind of setting your own intentions for them, and they have their own intentions that they are setting, which are creating the life that they're having right now and the experiences that they're having.
Yeah.
So I know it's a frustrating thing, but we need to remove our ego from it, right? And see the person as they are without projecting and without wanting them to be more than what they are there, because what they are now is where they need to be so they can get their lessons and move on to the next stage, right? So this is mainly for people that want to always save, that also take on a lot of people's emotions as, I need to save them, or experiences, and you're like, no, this person deserves so much more. But they're not in the space to understand it. They're not in the space to receive it. They need to go through certain experiences so that their transformation is it's long lasting, right? It's more sustainable because it came from within them. And there's some things that have led them to that point that they need to move through. So that's the first part I want to say in observing that, as somebody that used to also take on other people's stuff as my own. So the other part of that is that approach it with compassion, right?
Yeah.
So now you're accepting, because the moment you stop saying they need to be here, they need to be there, you can accept them for
Sure.
where they are with who they are. Because also with this thing of, you get frustrated with the person and you're so impatient because like, you're so capable of so much more. It's almost so righteous, right? It's like very self-righteous to
Sure.
think that you can be so much more. I'm so frustrated with you. It's about you now. It's not about them and where they need to be. And so when you remove that judgment, you can accept them for who they are and where they are, right? And then you can understand that you can just support them and love them right where they are, right? Because that's
Sure.
the
That's
only
so
way they get
powerful.
to the other side. So first, it's validation. I hear you. I see you, right? I'm here to support you. When you need me, come to me. Not this thing where every week you're sending them course content every week and they don't even open any of them. When now you're sending them job applications, when they don't want a job where they are, right? For whatever reason, whatever struggle, people are different. Right now, where they are, there's a part of them in their consciousness that's
They
resisting the
need
job
to be.
right? So now that you've accepted them, right? So you need to understand that you love them, you validate them, you let them know that they are supported, you let them know if they need your support, you are here. The best healing thing you can do for any person who's going through a tough time is listen
Yeah.
without advising, as hold space. So when what we think of holding space is, especially if you're a doer like me, right? I love solving problems. I used to do business consulting and marketing consulting and so forth. So I love solving problems. That's part of the thing. But I realize my ego is the one that's giving them solutions, because the solutions need to come from them. They need to understand the power within them. And if you're fixing things for them all the time, they will never get to the point where they start asking the important questions of themselves, right? So it's quite important that you support, right? You don't necessarily go and fix things for them, because that's almost like a very enabling and also just like an ego thing, right? I
Yeah.
fix this for this person. Even if you don't
Yeah.
tell people, there's a part of you that enjoys fixing things for them. There's a part of you that enjoys being needed, or there's a part of you that's like, you like to fix it. It's not about them, it's about you. So
Sure.
really just hold space, listen, ask them questions. So what are you feeling? What are you going to do about it? Oh, okay, if you need any support, I'm here. That's it. Listen without giving advice. Listen unless they ask. Because
Yeah.
here's another thing, right? It's so annoying, or it brings so much anger to you, right? That you give this advice when now you think you're helping, then the person will get mad at the advice that you're giving. And then I
True.
know, think you're better than me, or you
Counterproductive.
think this and this and this and this and this, right? But that's
Yeah.
because they can't receive it. And nobody likes being, declaring. It's really not the most empowering thing to do to fix things for everybody. So just hold space by listening, validate them. When they say I feel sad, you're like, okay, I can see why feel sad. Oh, I hear your experience.
Mm,
You're valuable. And then letting them know that they're supported, and also in seeing them and accepting them for who they are, you can just say, you know what, I know you can do so much more. I know you can, I know you will be able to solve this. That's also so empowering to tell somebody that I know you can solve this. You have the
Oh
ability. Like,
wow.
yes, I actually have it in me. And then now the ideas come, the thoughts come,
Yeah.
and that's empowering rather than, I know, let me fix this for you, let me
Sure.
send you things, whatever it is. But be supportive, affirm, validate their experience, validate who they are. Because most people who struggle is because they don't feel valuable, and they don't feel heard and they don't feel safe, So if you can offer that, it's those, what do you call it, the hierarchy of needs, the need to
Yeah,
belong,
Maslow's,
to
yeah.
feel safe, the need, to be heard and all of that. So, or recognition. So if you see them, you hear them, and you let them know that you did, that's more than enough.
Like I feel like I need a sound effect for that. I don't know what to do. I'll just that's all I got. That's all I got.
Poetry fingers, poetry
Oh,
fingers.
also the poetry fingers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, ma, that's powerful. I mean, Timmy Rams also says, I've just started learning to acknowledge what I'm feeling at that time. It's the best thing I've ever done for myself, relationship with others, and my neutral health, my mental health rather. Morgan says, I battled with the savior complex until I understood seasons. Me too. Me too. You feel like you gotta step in there, like, come on, buddy. You
That's
got
the
this.
most
Like,
empowering thing you
lose
can do.
this, man. You
Mm-mm.
can you lose the layer. And you're
Mm.
like, no, but like it's counterproductive of what I'm actually trying to do for this person. I love the point where you were talking about let people go through whatever they're going through. Like it doesn't necessarily mean by virtue of someone going through it, you have to step into it. And it reminded me of a saying that says, don't interrupt people's karma. Sometimes what is also happening to them could also be on a karmic level, like kinako, like that's the time when their wheel
Mm.
comes back around, and this is what is teaching them based on also their past traumas, what they did to previous people. I mean, if I'm a
Mm.
toxic mom and I'm not cool to my children and I'm not, enriching to my children, there's gonna be a time when all that karma comes back to me, and then now it's like me versus me. Like now I got to deal, So now, if I'm going to come in with a Messiah complex, I'm not letting that person get the lesson from whatever happened and where it stems from. And that's why it's also important to be speaking to other people. Um, usually our help is paid for, whether to go speak to someone, to whatever campaign you want to run or to help people to be enlightened, just to seek that help. Sometimes people feel like, yo, if I was to speak to a psychologist, a life coach, a sango man, sit at Muntu, I have to take out monies. Are there perhaps institutions or bodies or maybe social media groups that you find that one can join with? Perhaps they can still feel part of a community, no longer feel alone, and it doesn't
Mm.
actually cost so much on their pockets. Or maybe one-on-one time somewhere with someone who's available. Are there actual platforms like that and organizations that exist?
I do know of lifeline.org. They
Okay,
have
yeah.
a WhatsApp line that is free
Mm,
that you can just message them. And then also, of course, there's SADC. Is it SADC?
mm.
SADC. And
Yes.
South Africa Depression and Anxiety. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
lifeline.org, I know they have offices, I think, in Soweto and in Joburg as well. And their services are free. And I know they also have workshops. And I think so there's different things. I always say use your power, right? And sometimes that all you have
Yeah.
is Google. So really just go and say free counseling, free therapy.
Yes.
You'll be surprised what comes up, because so many of us just don't like. If someone asks me, right, why is therapy so expensive? And I'll say, when did you decide it was expensive? When did you start believing
Yeah.
that? Because if you
Sure.
believe that, you're not going to go and look for it because you've already
You can
decided,
avoid it.
why is starting a business so difficult? When did you decide it's difficult, right? So really,
Mm,
it's like, first understand that whatever you believe, you're not going to be able to bypass that. So believe that there's resources out there that are there to help you. So those ones are the ones that I've mentioned that I can remember from the tip of my tongue right now. But really, if you
mm,
just go online and search, therapy sessions free. And also, like I said, there's so many healing practitioners, such as yourself, Gogo Moyo, and so many other people. Just like on YouTube, people have YouTube channels. When was the last time you went and you did that? When was the last time you Googled? I remember for me, when I was a broke entrepreneur in Joburg, all I did was Google YouTube books on YouTube, and I'd find recordings of them, and then I'd listen. That's how I'd get my books. Like, that's how I'd listen to my books. I didn't say I don't have the money to get books, so therefore I'm not going to develop myself.
Yeah.
So I used to
Yeah.
literally just look and I say, okay, free healing books or free whatever. Or if I found a book and I heard that, okay, this by this author, I'll just go and search online and see if, like, on my YouTube, if somebody has done a reading on it, a live on it, a review on it, whatever it is, or if the author has a page. So there's so many resources out there. You just have to go and look for them. So lifeline.org is the one. I think it's Lifeline. Yeah, lifeline.org. And then there's SADAG and all of that. So those are the things that I can think of from the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
If I think of anything more, maybe I'll post them on my page.
No,
Or you can
thank you
post them
for that.
on your page.
No, definitely. Even at the bottom of the stream, when you drop down and get the information about the particular episode, I'll definitely have all of these information on there. I'll also have. We spoke about something else earlier on that you made a reference to. I'll definitely add that too when I rerun the video. It's so important for us to know that we're not alone, and this information is actually available to us. If you seek it, you will receive it, right? There's a comment here from Kwanele Ngwane who says, "Oh, damn, that's another angle I've never looked at." I guess it's like how you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Sometimes people need to reach their rock bottom before they heal, which is so very true.
And they
Like,
can't reach rock bottom if you're there catching them every time. Like, you're actually blocking their
how
stream.
will you learn? How will you learn? Also, talking about these organizations and all this information that's online, please tell us about Living Consciously, ma'am.
So Living Consciously is my book, my baby, first book that I've written. And it's a guide to healing your past, finding your purpose, and creating the life that you want. And it's really just like, when I wrote it, I was like, I want this to feel like a manual. Like, I remember just me going in my journey and figuring things out and like understanding, why isn't this working out? Why do I seem like I have blockages in this area? Why aren't my relationships working? Why do I keep attracting these type of people in my journey? And like, yeah, so for me, it was just like, just understanding, life, purpose, meaning, healing, forgiveness, so it literally has a chapter on everything. If you're struggling with forgiveness, if you're struggling with relationships, then it also has like goal setting techniques, because I was like, I want it to be a manual, and I'm a coach, so of course I'm also practical. It's nice to
Sure.
read these nice feeling things, but okay, what do you do? So in each chapter, it also speaks about, it has exercises in I think almost all of the chapters. So
Yeah.
that will help you. Okay, if you're struggling to forgive your parents, these are the questions that will help you with it. If you're
Sure.
struggling to understand, I have a chapter on religion, but it's not what you would think it is. In
Oh,
terms of religion, it really speaks about generational patterns, which is a religion. Because religion is really when
true.
we do things but we don't understand
Actually.
why. Right. So that's another chapter. So it speaks about trauma, it speaks about healing, it also speaks about creating and manifesting the life that you want, right at the end, and self-love and commitment. And so if you feel like your life is like, in shambles, or even if you just want to improve, or if there's any area in your life that you really want to work on, oh, there it is. And if there's an area in your life which you want to improve on, you can just get the book. It's available at Beauty on Tap, as well as what's the other book? So the book Circle Capital, which are all online, and one of them has a store, which are all Black owned as well. So that's exciting.
Excellent. Thank you, Touch, also for quickly pulling that up on the screen. Also, yeah, one of the links that I remember to put up are actually your contact details for your practice, so that people can also feel like there's a whole life cycle to just to this, and not that we're just talking about it, but we can actually get bums on your seat. I mean, if the people need it, then it's not really like we're advertising or anything. And what's wrong with advertising as well? We put in so much work. We must definitely reap the rewards of why we've been put in the positions that we put in. We're being trusted with the voices. We're being trusted with the knowledge. So we better be there for each other and know the right ways of how to be there for each other, and not just enable people to stay in whatever states that they're in by virtue of us saying we're trying to help. In my final question, this is such a popular question amongst healers, Yvette. I hope
Okay,
you're
okay,
ready,
okay.
ma.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
My question is, who heals the healer?
Ooh, the Lord. Lord heals the healer. So again, like I said, I think we all have the power to heal ourselves, man. We just have
Yeah.
to pay attention and be aware and be present.
Mm,
So for me, of course, I also go to coaching if I really need it, because I'm also one of those
yeah.
like really difficult people. It's funny because I'm a coach. It's nice to ask questions and all of that, and to help people with their traumas. But really, when I'm like, okay, I need to go see somebody because this is beyond me. There's some exercises that I do on my own. I'm like, okay, I feel good. I've asked, I've processed it. But sometimes when it's really, I go and I speak to somebody who can help. So whether that's a relationship coach, or whether that is the coach for myself, or healer and all, what do you call them, NLP practitioner, someone who does what I do. I also go and I consult with them. So apart from that, I spend a lot of time with myself, and I'm just present, man. I'm like, hey, the body's speaking. Your emotions are speaking. Pay attention. Something is
Sure.
wrong. Something needs to change. Your schedule needs to change. Whatever it
Mm,
is, you're being hard on yourself. Slow down, speed up, redesign the vision. So
yeah.
it's just, for me, it's like the healing also just comes from being present in my experience, and also just having support. One of the things that I'm really grateful for is that I am surrounded by love and support, and also giving myself permission to go in and reach out for that support, when
Yeah.
I do need it, because that can actually make an immense difference in your journey. So yeah, that is who heals the healer. And there's another thing that's like pressing on my soul, because I know we're about to like end this live.
Please feel free.
When we were speaking earlier on about spirituality, I didn't
Yeah.
mention, I spoke about God, right? And how relationship with that. But sometimes also, I know, because a lot of people that engage on your social media platforms are about, ancestors and healing in that regard, and spirituality in that
Sure.
regard. And also, even with that, because I have friends who are called to be healers, and when you reject the gift, you reject yourself. That's going to cause pain for you, right? And that's something that I also just want to make clear. And that's why I say spirituality is essential about your relationship with yourself. Because even if you're
Yeah.
rejecting an ancestral gift, a prophetic gift, you're rejecting
Anything.
yourself, a
Yeah.
certain part of yourself. So there's no way you can reject a gift, even if it's a singing gift. But sometimes we're called to be
Definitely.
healers. And because I've engaged with some people that have this conflict, you're almost at war with yourself. And again, that's why I said, even if the relationship is with God, who you think is punishing you, or your ancestors, or the relationship with that, it still comes back to self, and how you view yourself, how you view your gifts, and how you
Sure.
relationship with all of that's going on within you. So I just wanted to just put that out there.
No, we sincerely appreciate that. I'm sure there's several people on the platform that also appreciate it based on their belief systems and what they carry to be true in their hearts and their minds and their spirits. I think I'm definitely going to book a session with you. It does not necessarily mean by virtue of me being a healer, I know how to help my own psyche. And everything does start on the mental. So I also want to enable myself to also be a more well rounded healer, like to really give the best to my clients as I can, because I'm well with myself. Um, also just generally, even in personal relationships, sometimes maybe I want to go at it as if I'm feeling Dumbeni, whereas no, this person is like really just trying to get a one-on-one, human to human, spirit to spirit. But because my brain is already channeled a certain way, I want to go into those kind of mindsets and put out the fires in a particular way. Next thing I'm suggesting, let's go patha, let's go get a river cleanse,
Mhm.
and like, but yes,
Yeah.
it can do them good, but this is not the core of what the issue is. So I'm very glad that you also said that. And I'm open enough always to learn. So I don't mind, Joe. Like, I don't mind. Even when I'm wrong, I'm okay to be wrong. Just teach me
Mhm.
a better way. I'm always open.
Mhm.
Thank you so much to all of you guys that tuned in this lovely afternoon. I sincerely appreciate you guys. I saw one of you guys was asking, how can you guys be able to get notifications? And well, that's easy. Simply subscribe to Gogo Moyo TV on YouTube, as well as hit the bell icon. Definitely, every time I'm live, you're going to get your own personal message in your mailbox reminding you and sending you the direction of where it's at. And with that said, thank you so much to everyone. And that I've been your host with the most, Kinna Gogo Moyo. Tune in again next week on Tuesday when we have lunch with Gog. Marcos. Thanks, Yvette, baby.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
This was
love.
really fun.
Right?
This was so